Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty.
You know, one of the hardest parts of my job is to connect Iraq to the war on terror.
If you have ever said this administration lied to us 1,000 times about Iraq, the war, and Al-Qaeda, and a new study confirming the administration only lied about those vital matters 935 times.
Part of the reason we went into Iraq was the main reason we went into Iraq at the time was we thought he had weapons of mass destruction. It turns out he didn't.
If the Assad regime used chemical weapons on his own people, that would change some of our calculations.
Russia says there is every reason to believe that it was the armed opposition fighters who used chemical weapons.
Nobody disputes, or hardly anybody disputes, that chemical weapons were used on a large scale in Syria against civilian populations.
The sarin technical specifications prove that it was not industrially manufactured.
What the hell is going on?
On June 25, 2013, in Washington, D.C., the Russian Emergency Situations Ministry, Russia's equivalent to FEMA, signed an agreement with FEMA to, quote, exchange experts during joint rescue operations and major disasters. This, according to the Russian Ministry for Civil Defense website. The Civil Defense website, however, goes on to discuss something that appears to be much more sinister. Russian so-called experts will be engaged in, quote, monitoring and forecasting emergency situations, training of rescuers, development of mine rescuing, and provision of security at mass events.
We've got to ask ourselves, why are the feds preparing for a war against Americans? Why have they bought now more than 2 billion bullets, all kinds of arms and ammunition, and now more than 2,700 tanks to patrol in America and keep order? We're told it's because they love us. We're told it's to keep the peace and to increase safety. But of course, we also know from Army documents, from Homeland Security reports, and a lot of other information that it's really to occupy America and prepare for a civil unrest and a total economic collapse that will include gun confiscation.
The rise of the warrior cop. So, what do you mean?
Our cops are getting increasingly like soldiers. They're being dressed like soldiers, they're being armed like soldiers, they're sent out in the streets told they're fighting the war. And when you do that, we shouldn't be surprised when we see some of the results we've seen at the lead-in, where they start treating American citizens more like enemy combatants than citizens with rights.
Meaning, mostly you're talking about these SWAT team raids.
Over the last probably 20 years, there's been about a 1,500% increase in the number of SWAT raids in New York.
Because we don't live in a police state, sir. Martial law has not been established in this country. You're gonna kick my door. You kicked my door down. You kicked my door down. You kicked my door down. No, you have no right to be in here. You have no right to be in here. You have no right to be here. You have no right to be in here. Do not touch her. You are assaulting her.
I didn't open up the door. I would open up. Now they're barging in my door for one reason. Down, to your hands! Hands, come to me! Now, don't move!
If what we saw in response to bombs was that, what will the response be in the wake of something bigger? Is that when we'll see martial law take effect across the country? And more importantly, will people just accept it entirely out of fear?
It was never meant that we would have this gigantic police force from the federal government. I mean, we had martial law up there, FBI and all these agents coming in and closing things down, going to people's houses.
The police state is staring us in the eye. and it's getting more and more imposed upon us and more imposed on society every day. More and more people are waking up faster and faster and faster.
I think it could very well come to that based on the things that are happening in the news, and we're seeing, the collapse of our economy, so many different things happening.
I have spoken with one federal agent, and the information succinctly boiled down is this. There is an event coming, Steve, in the very near-term future that is going to affect the United States of America to its very soul. That what is being planned as you and I are on the air tonight, and what has been coming together into that old term, the perfect storm, is literally brewing right over our heads. It is and includes military maneuvers in the United States, military actions that are forthcoming, and that will be so deep and so penetrating that the United States will never be the same.
We've heard about the NSA spying on us all and think, no big deal. I'm not a terrorist, so I have nothing to worry about. Think again. Because we are all potential terrorists, according to the American government.
You can't just do these kind of things. And this one is not only repealing the principles of liberty, but it's destroying the Constitution.
All of these invasions of our personal privacy under the guise of protecting us, they're just wrong. And it's no longer about keeping us safe. This is about keeping us safely under the government's eye. And it is clear the government is watching all the time.
Oil looks higher. Gold looks higher, currencies look weaker.
More about this currency crisis you see erupting. What does that assume about what's going to happen to the dollar?
Well, it assumes that the dollar will utterly get destroyed and become virtually worthless. I don't know how that inevitably resolves itself. It may resolve itself in some type of a global currency crisis. And then if the global currency crisis unfolds, then inevitably you get I guess an alignment under a global world government, a new global currency, and a new world order.
Growing debate in Washington following reports that some U.S. senators are now considering an immigration bill that would force all U.S. workers to carry around biometric ID cards. Well, it is an idea that is now raising some serious concerns among privacy advocates.
Through the advancing market of biometrics, technology that uses physiological and behavioral recognition to identify people. A system touted as a national security necessity is being used to build a database where the biometric identity of millions of Americans will be gathered and stored.
We really need to attack this in a comprehensive kind of way, not some knee-jerk reaction like sticking something in someone's finger to verify who they are and whether or not they can be employed in this country.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has been buying up massive amounts of ammunition. Americans are wondering why.
Hundreds of arrests throughout months of Occupy Wall Street demonstrations have shown the world an image of America not seen for a long time. An image authorities have tried their best to hide by demanding special credentialing for journalists covering demonstrations and evictions.
I have DCPD press passes.
As well as threatening to take media passes away.
We're seeing this pattern, and it's very disturbing, and a lot of reporters aren't seeing it because they are getting thrown out of the action and being arrested, and this is something which is outrageous also.
Police presence and aggression overwhelming at nonviolent protests.
Since the Patriot Act was passed, they've used instances of violence to revoke liberties.
Some of those who've been part of the protests since day one say officials turned the movement into a civil war.
The show of police force and the coordinated attempts with the Homeland Security shows that this is coming from a federal level.
Even with the use of militarized tactics on the rise, those fighting for change are not planning to give up on their battle.
The police overreaction and the political overreaction only emboldens us, only strengthens our resolve.
And many are saying the real fight is yet to come.
And the actions of a dying regime become more aggressive and crazier, and we're just going to see more of that.